Most people spend their lives auditioning. They soften their voice to seem agreeable. They reply in seconds so no one feels ignored. They over-explain every decision so nobody can accuse them of being rude, cold, difficult, arrogant. And after all that effort, what do they get? Polite smiles, delayed respect, replaceable status. They're tolerated, not valued. Here's the cold truth. Social influence isn't built on warmth. It's built on scarcity. Not cruelty, not chaos. Scarcity. This is the essence of dark psychology that Machiavelli understood before modern psychology had language for it. In The Prince, he wasn't writing as a cartoon villain. He was a surgeon of power. He cut human behavior open and exposed the hidden levers beneath status, fear, loyalty, desire. In this video, you're about to get 3 specific Machiavellian secrets that flip the social equation and make people orbit you instead of the reverse. And one of these secrets is so counterintuitive it will feel like cheating. Availability feels virtuous, it also destroys value. The person who is always reachable becomes psychologically ordinary. The one who is always present becomes visually invisible. The one who is always ready becomes emotionally cheap. This isn't moral language, it's behavioral economics applied to attention. Machiavelli called for virtue, but virtue was never simple kindness. It was controlled force under deliberate command. In social dynamics, controlled presence is that force. If your presence is uncontrolled, your influence is uncontrolled. Most people miss the nervous system behind this. Dopamine doesn't primarily fire at possession, it fires at anticipation. The chase, the maybe, the uncertain reward. What B.F. Skinner called intermittent reinforcement has shown this repeatedly. Unpredictable rewards create stronger behavioral fixation than guaranteed rewards. When you're predictably available, you remove no anticipation, no tension, no tension, no pursuit. No pursuit, no gravity. Watch the default pattern almost everyone runs. They answer fast because they fear losing relevance. They explain too much because they fear being misread. They fill every silence because they fear disconnection. But those 3 behaviors leak power in plain sight. Instant responses tell people your schedule is open to invasion. Over-explanation signals emotional self-defense. Compulsive talking kills mystery before it can form. If you want social influence, you need a new architecture. First shift. Delayed responses, not childish games, not fake busyness, deliberate pacing. If every message gets an immediate reply, your attention has no price. If your reply rhythm is intentional, your attention regains market value. You're teaching people how to access you. Second shift, strategic silence. Silence isn't emptiness. Silence is pressure. In negotiation, in dating, in status contests, the person who can hold silence without panic controls tempo. Most people rush to fill the gap, and in that rush they reveal need, insecurity, or information they did not plan to give. Let them talk into the space. Third shift, selective engagement. Stop showing up at half energy for everything. Either be fully present or absent. When you choose to engage, simulate total presence, eye contact, precision, controlled voice, no scattered gestures. Make the moment feel expensive. When you choose not to engage, don't apologize for the boundary. Most people get this wrong. They confuse scarcity with random coldness. Random coldness creates resistance. Intentional scarcity creates demand. Now the visceral example most people skip. Cesare Borgia needed to pacify Romagna. He did not personally stand in every square barking orders. He appointed Ramiro di Orco as his instrument. Ramiro imposed order with open brutality, and hatred concentrated on him. He had Ramiro cut in half and displayed in the piazza at Cesena, body split, knife and block beside him. One theatrical morning rewired public emotion. Fear remained. Blame was redirected. Borgia looked like the surgeon who removed the infection. That's social influence in its raw form. Outsource the push, stage the pull, control the story. He wasn't omnipresent. He was strategically visible. When your presence becomes slightly unpredictable, people start adjusting to you. They prepare more before speaking. They value access more when they get it. They stop assuming you're permanently on standby. Use the rule of 3. The delayed reply. Don't answer instantly unless the matter is critical. Delay just enough to prove you aren't on call. The unanswered question. When someone sends a low-value probe or baiting message, don't close every loop. Leave one thread unresolved. Uncertainty is cognitive glue. The early exit. Leave the interaction while your value is still peaking. Never stay until the signal decays into familiarity. This protocol retrains your social signature fast. People stop reading you as endlessly available. They start reading you as selectively invested. Selective investment is attractive because it implies standards. Standards imply hierarchy. Hierarchy creates influence. That's the first gear of social influence. Scarcity creates hunger, but hunger alone doesn't guarantee pursuit. To keep people in motion, you need the engine. If Secret Itch 1 builds the cage, Secret Itch 2 is why they never want to leave it. Consistent warmth feels noble. It also breeds complacency. Complacency quietly mutates into contempt. If you're always available, always understanding, always emotionally smooth, you don't become magnetic, you become furniture. Useful, comforting, forgettable. This is the hidden cost of being the reliable one. You're consulted, not desired. Included, not prioritized. Appreciated, not feared to lose. Push-pull changes that structure. At its core, push-pull is architectural contrast. Pull means moments of high emotional presence, focus, warmth, attunement, validation, shared intensity. Push means deliberate distance, reduced access, shorter replies, temporary unavailability, emotional coolness without hostility. Not random, not moody, not chaotic calibrated. What John Bowlby's attachment theory gives language to. Bonding systems attach harder under uncertainty. Predictable warmth creates comfort. Intermittent reinforcement creates pursuit. Now drop the polite language and call it what it is. Behavioral conditioning. Humans are wired for social homeostasis, a preferred emotional baseline where connection feels predictable and safe. Push breaks homeostasis. The nervous system reads distance as threat, uncertainty, possible loss. Then pull restores homeostasis. Relief floods in. The brain tags you as the source of both tension and release. Run that loop enough times, and you create the skeleton of a trauma bond dynamic. Anxiety when you're gone, regulation when you return. That's why this method feels addictive. Dopamine spikes in anticipation, cortisol rises in uncertainty, and relief chemistry lands on reconnection. The person isn't just liking you, their nervous system is learning you as a regulator. Used without discipline, this becomes psychological harm. Used with discipline, it prevents your value from flattening into background noise. Machiavelli captured the logic in a brutal line. Men should be either well-treated or crushed, because they can avenge lighter injuries but not severe ones. Socially translated, no lukewarm middle. Don't live in permanent medium intensity. Be fully present or consciously absent. Mediocrity is what kills influence. So how do you install this practically? Start with full presence pulls. When you're in, be all in. No split attention. No phone checks. No half listening. Ask sharp questions. Mirror details. And make the moment feel exclusive. That creates imprint. Then apply the push. After a strong interaction, reduce availability for a calculated period. Don't vanish dramatically. Just return to your own mission. Shorter replies, longer response intervals. No unnecessary initiation. Let the emotional echo of the previous pull do the work. A useful baseline ratio is roughly 70% pull, 30% push. That keeps connection alive while preserving tension. People chase what occasionally opens, not what permanently stays unlocked and waiting. Too much pull, you become taken for granted. Too much push, you trigger rupture and distrust. Tension is the target, not damage. Watch for the common mistake. Inexperienced people hear push-pull and imitate coldness. They withdraw to create value, but they over-withdraw. They delay too long. They become vague, evasive, passive-aggressive. Now people don't chase, they disengage. Because the signal changed from high-value person with boundaries to emotionally unstable person with issues. Don't confuse volatility with power. Real power is stable in strategy, variable in access. Another mistake, explaining your pushes. I'm sorry I was distant. I just didn't want to seem too available. I've been trying to balance things. The second you narrate the strategy, you puncture the effect. Pushes should feel natural, not theatrical. You aren't playing a character, you're protecting your center. Use context intelligence. In professional settings, pull looks like high-precision collaboration. Clear thinking, decisive contribution. Push looks like boundaries, unavailable outside priority windows, no instant replies to non-critical noise, selective meeting attendance. In dating, pull looks like emotional intensity and full attention. Push looks like returning to your life without constant reassurance loops. In friendships, pull is deep presence. Push isn't being permanently on call for every emotional emergency. The mechanics are identical across hierarchies: presence, distance, re-entry, reward, tension, reward. As this cycle stabilizes, something shifts. You stop performing for attention. Others start calibrating for access. You're no longer the one trying to be chosen. You become the variable they're trying to solve. You now have scarcity. You now have the engine. But amateurs still fail here because they don't control what your distance means. That's where Secret 3 separates strategist from spectator. If Secret Tog 2 installs the dependency loop, Secret Tog 3 controls the mythology. Anyone can disappear. Only a few can make disappearance increase their weight. Unplanned absence reads as weakness, burnout, confusion, avoidance, collapse. Controlled absence reads as dominance, priorities, composure, self-command. The behavior may look similar from a distance. The meaning is completely different. When you leave a space, people experience a micro-collapse of meaning. The normal signal is gone. The mind hates unresolved gaps, so it fills them with projection. And projections are often more extreme, more flattering, and more emotionally sticky than reality. That's why absence can amplify status. Not because you're gone, because other people start writing myth in the silence. History makes this obvious. Napoleon was exiled to Elba in 1814. By every rational metric, his story was over. But while he was gone, memory edited him. People forgot exhaustion and remembered force. The regime replacing him looked weak, ceremonial, bloodless. Then March 1815. Napoleon lands in France with a tiny force and walks north. Troops are sent to arrest him. He steps forward, opens his coat, and dares them. If any man wants to shoot his emperor, shoot now. They join him. He reaches Paris and takes power again without the civil bloodbath everyone predicted. That's controlled absence. The man vanished. The myth scaled. And if you want the Machiavellian prototype, go back to Borgia. He let Ramiro embody terror, then erased him in public and re-entered as order itself. Same pattern. Disappear from the dirt. Return as the solution. Another signal example. John Adams deliberately left Washington before dawn on March 4, 1801. No ceremony, no theatrical transfer moment. The strategic exit itself communicated defiance, restraint, and political intelligence. One controlled move reframed an entire transition. The lesson is simple. Absence is never neutral. If you don't design it, others will design it for you. Controlled absence uses 3 levers. Lever 1. Exit on a high. Leave conversations when energy is peaking, not decaying. Leave meetings right after your decisive contribution, not after your 5th repetitive comment. Leave social rooms while people still want 10 more minutes. Never stay until your value blurs into background. Most people overstay because they fear being forgotten. Overstaying is exactly what makes them forgettable. Lever 2. Let silence speak. Don't over-explain your absence. Explanations can be necessary logistically, but most are emotional apologies disguised as communication. Sorry, I've been distant. I've just had so much going on. I didn't mean anything by it. This collapses narrative power. When you explain every move, nothing is left to interpret. No interpretation means no intrigue. No intrigue means no gravitational pull. Silence used well becomes signal. It says, I move with intention. I'm not managed by external demand. My rhythm is mine. Lever 3. Re-enter with intention. Your return should feel like event, not drama, not grandiosity. Clarity. When you come back, bring value immediately. In work, return with a solution, not a status update. In relationships, return with presence, not defensive explanation. In social groups, return with calm confidence and directional energy. Don't re-enter as if asking permission to exist. Re-enter as if resuming command. Machiavelli understood visibility risk. A ruler who is constantly exposed becomes easy to decode, easy to predict, easy to diminish. Selective appearance preserves aura. Applied socially, If you're always visible, you become noise. If you appear selectively with impact, you become memory. There's also a discipline cost here. Controlled absence requires emotional tolerance. You must tolerate being misread. You must tolerate not correcting every false assumption. You must tolerate the discomfort of not managing everyone's perception in real time. Most people fail because they can't bear that uncertainty, so they rush back, over-text, over-explain, overcompensate, and in doing that, they surrender the very power absence was creating. Done correctly, your absence starts carrying information. People feel your non-presence as pressure. They rethink how they approached you. They remember your last high-value interaction. They prepare more carefully for your return. At this stage, a strange inversion happens. You're no longer competing with louder personalities. Your silence is louder than their noise. That's social influence at advanced level. 3 secrets, 3 gears. But gears alone don't make a machine. The machine runs on one deeper principle. And if you miss it, every tactic turns into performance. Now we stop talking tactics and expose the architecture. The 3 secrets aren't isolated tricks. They're one integrated system. Scarcity sets price. Push-pull creates compulsion. Controlled absence builds myth. Price, compulsion, myth. That's the architecture of social influence. Underneath all 3 is strategic asymmetry. You aren't trying to mirror everyone else's intensity, timing, or emotional pace. You're creating a rhythm others must adapt to. Most people think social success is about being liked. Wrong target. Likes are unstable, cheap, and easily transferred. Influence comes from perceived necessity. And necessity is manufactured when your presence is valuable, your pattern isn't fully predictable, and your absence produces cognitive friction. At this point, people raise the moral objection. Isn't this manipulation? Ask a cleaner question. Are social dynamics ever free from power structure? No. Power is always present. Influence is always operating. Frames are always competing. The only real choice is whether you're conscious of these mechanics or unconsciously controlled by someone who is. This is core dark psychology, understanding the influence patterns that Robert Greene explored in 48 Laws of Power, but with the precision that Machiavelli documented centuries earlier. You aren't learning cruelty, you're learning armor. Armor doesn't exist to harm strangers, it exists to stop penetration. These tools fail in insecure hands. If you use scarcity because you fear intimacy, you become avoidant and brittle. If you use push-pull because you crave control, you become manipulative and eventually isolated. If you use absence to punish, you create resentment, not influence. So who should use this system? The sovereign mind. Someone whose self-worth is internally anchored. Someone who doesn't need applause to feel real. Someone willing to trade short-term approval for long-term respect. This matters practically. In meetings, stop speaking to prove participation. Speak to alter direction. That's scarcity plus high-impact re-entry. In negotiations, offer full attention during critical windows, then step back and let silence tax the other side's certainty. That's push-pull with strategic absence. In leadership, don't flood your team with constant presence. Build clear standards, appear decisively at inflection points, and let your selective interventions carry weight. In dating, stop performing availability as devotion. Simulate total presence when in the room, then return to mission. Let your life remain center. In friendships and family systems, remove the pattern where you're the permanent emotional utility line. Offer precision, not unlimited emotional labor. Notice the pattern across all contexts. The mechanics don't change, only the stakes change. People will misinterpret your shift as distance or arrogance. Good. That means the old pattern is breaking. When you stop leaking attention, consumers of your old pattern feel loss. Don't confuse their discomfort with your error. You aren't obligated to stay legible to people who benefited from your over-availability. Machiavellian strategy requires one rare trait: tolerance for controlled misunderstanding. Some will call you cold the moment access is no longer free. Don't explain yourself back into old dynamics. Hold frame while approval drops and respect compowers. Most people fail there and run back to comfort. Don't. Keep the loop tight. Scarcity protects time. Push-pull protects emotional premium. Controlled absence protects myth. Operationally, the sequence is simple. Enter with value, exit before decay, hold silence without apology, return with directional impact. Repeat until your pattern becomes reputation. Reputation then compounds through third-party retelling. People describe you before you arrive. Focused, hard to access, precise when present. That preloaded narrative changes interactions before they begin. You spend less energy proving value because the social environment now carries evidence on your behalf. Momentum replaces effort, and effort converts into leverage. Once reputation locks in, you no longer need to overperform in every interaction. Your baseline signal does the heavy lifting. People assume depth before you speak. They assume standards before you decide. They assume consequence before they test boundaries. When these are integrated, your social field changes. Rooms read you differently, and people prepare more before approaching. Your words travel further because there are fewer of them. Your silence acquires interpretation. Your returns acquire impact. This isn't charisma theater. This is architecture. And architecture, once built, keeps working even when you aren't in the room. You now have the blueprint. What happens next depends on whether you act like a strategist or remain a spectator of your own life. 3 lines. Lock them in. Scarcity sets your price. If access to you is unlimited, your value is discounted. Push-pull drives pursuit. Full presence followed by calibrated distance creates tension that people work to resolve. Controlled absence builds myth. When you leave with intention and return with impact, your non-presence becomes signal. In the next 48 hours, deploy 1 secret. Not all 3. 1. Delay responses and hold silence. Or run a clean push-pull cycle. Or execute a high-value exit and intentional re-entry. Then watch what changes and how people approach you, speak to you, and prepare for you. Final truth. The world isn't waiting for you to feel ready. It's already running the game. The only question is whether you're playing it or being played by it. If you want the full strategic arsenal, deeper mechanics of power, presence, and social architecture, the next video is already waiting.